7. Pablo Escobar. About 93 miles east of Medellin, Colombia, is Puerto Triunfo. In this town lies the legendary Hacienda Napoli. This 7.7-mile estate once belonged to the infamous, internationally known king of cocaine Pablo Escobar, but nowadays the mansion sits empty and abandoned. After Escobar's death in 1993, the property was handed over to the Colombian government, who eventually took over the land. But officials quickly realized they couldn't manage all the animals that had been transported to the property by Escobar. His collection included exotic species like giraffes, rhinoceros, hippos, birds, horses, and even elephants. And as a result, many of them were rehomed and moved to zoos. But for a while, the estate functioned as a family-friendly theme park, complete with water rides, museums, and a wildlife sanctuary. Secluded and hidden between the Caribbean Sea and the tropical forest, the property is made up of several luxury buildings. But these days, the structures are falling into ruin. The once lush gardens of Hacienda Napoli are now home to a family of wild pigs. And if you were to step into the mansion itself, you'd see cracked white marble walls and an outdated pink and blue color scheme from the 1980s. The home's lobby leads into a massive courtyard shaded by palm trees, although a large drained pool now overshadows this once beautiful area. Hacienda Napoli wasn't Escobar's only home, but it was definitely his favorite, since it was outfitted with every amenity someone could ever dream of having. And the mansion's main entrance truly showcased the Druglords' ultimate pride and joy, a replica Piper PA-18 Super Cub plane. This was the small aircraft Escobar used to transport his first shipment of cocaine to the United States, a decision that led the man down a road to great prestige and wealth. And when the estate opened up as a theme park in the 1980s, this plane stayed in its place on top of the entrance to remind visitors of the rich history Hacienda Napoli holds. 6. Cocaine Ghost Boat. In December 2020, police officers in the Marshall Islands found their largest drug haul ever. On a small atoll in an abandoned boat, they discovered 1,430 pounds of cocaine, which at the time was estimated to have a street value worth around $80 million. It was believed that the boat drifted across the Pacific Ocean from its initial port in Latin America, possibly spending months at sea. It's not uncommon for drunks to wash up on the beaches of the remote Pacific archipelago, but this discovery, made in late 2020, set a new record by miles. According to the Marshall Islands police, the large amount of cocaine was burned shortly after it was located, except for 2 small packets of the substance, which were sent out to be tested at the US Drug Enforcement Administration. The deserted 18-foot ship was first spotted on Iluk Atoll by a local resident. The locals then tried to move the boat themselves, but they were unable to do so since it was too heavy. Then after further investigation of the boat, they discovered the large amount of cocaine inside a hidden compartment of the vessel. While it's not clear who the drugs actually belonged to, they had to have come from a major cartel. But why the ship was left drifting alone in the water is still a mystery that'll probably never be solved. 5. Efrain Isaac Rosales. In 2014 Mexico, a team from CNN, led by senior Latin American affairs editor Rafael Romo, was given a private tour of a mansion that was once home to members of the Knights Templar cartel. The leader of the drug gang, Servando Gomez, aka La Tuta, surprisingly started out as a humble schoolteacher before deciding to make a drastic lifestyle change. Efrain Isaac Rosales, or El Tucan, one of Gomez's right-hand men, is the actual owner of the property. But in this line of business, everything of the underdogs belongs to the head honcho, which in this case is La Tuta. The team from CNN was invited to the estate by a group of locals. When they arrived, they were greeted by 6 armed guards. These men were apparently members of a vigilante group who at the time had recently stood up to the cartel. The Knights Templar had been wreaking havoc around the area during that time, and unfortunately they weren't only known for their drug trafficking. The group committed countless horrible acts of violence and terrorized the local population through executions, extortion, and even murder. But on January 10, 2014, the town of Antunes came together, rose up in arms, and fought back against the cartel, causing El Tucan and any other members of the group to run away from the mansion. And during their hasty escape, they left several of their weapons behind. This Mexican house would be considered an upper-middle-class suburban home in any big American city. But in the town of Antunes, which is in a rural area of the state of Michoacan, it seems a lot more grandiose, especially in comparison to the adobe-style homes right next door. The mansion, at the time of the walkthrough, was being used by the vigilante group as their barracks. Some of the weapons that were left behind were even repurposed by the vigilantes to be used for good instead of evil. In the foyer of the home, there stood a modern art statue, but sitting right next to it was a Mini 14 assault rifle along with a bulletproof vest. From there, a hallway connected to a decent-sized living area outfitted with a brown leather recliner in the middle of the room. And on the nearby wall hung a giant flat-screen TV, although most of the home had been picked over by the vigilante group, giving the mansion the feeling of a house whose owners had just moved out. The place was still surprisingly clean though, considering the circumstances, with the exception of the home's bathrooms. But most of the beds weren't, and pieces of furniture and random objects were out in odd places. The property also featured a shed-like structure with white pillars and a red tile roof that covered another living area with chairs and a grill. This area led to the lawn that connected a 2-level circular pool with a divider down the middle of it. What would you buy if you had as much money as a drug lord? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video so far. 4. Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo. The Arellano Felix organization used to be a family business, and at one time it was among some of the most powerful Mexican cartels. During the peak of their power, the family of 4 sisters and 7 brothers controlled a majority of the trafficking of marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and meth into the United States. The family also owned a large home in northwestern Mexico in Culiacan, Sinaloa, and back in 2016, the mansion was being rented out and used as a commercial space. The house had sat abandoned for years, according to the rental agent, who preferred to stay anonymous. But after the Mexican government seized the property from the criminal family, the mansion was sold, renovated, and quickly put back on the market as a rental property. The owners who bought the home initially tried to convert the 11,000 square foot estate into a school, but the proposal to do so was ultimately rejected by the Secretary of Public Education, considering the mansion's violent history. After the school idea was denied, the property was then passed on to another realtor, a man named Cesar Tamayo, who then gave the house to the new unnamed rental agent. Surprisingly, the home doesn't have any bullet holes throughout any of the walls. Instead, the mansion features a wide variety of well-lit rooms, each of which is being individually rented out at different price points. There's even more space available on the building's 2nd floor, right next to a grand spiral staircase with a view overlooking the balcony, where armed guards wielding automatic weapons once stood watch for the Arellano family. 3. Carlos Lerda. In a small chain of islands southeast of Nassau in the Exumas, there's a Bahamian island called Norman's Cay. And from 1978 to 1982, this place served as the headquarters for a drug smuggling operation under Carlos Lerda's control. Once a Colombian-German drug lord, Lerda was the co-founder of the Medellin cartel along with the infamous Pablo Escobar. Lerda used Norman's Cay as a shipment base for smuggling drugs like cocaine into the States. The usual method of moving small shipments back then was to have the goods carried by human drug mules, either in luggage or through oral ingestion onto commercial flights. But this practice was quickly surpassed by the use of small planes which could ship entire loads of electric Kool-Aid, aka cocaine. For this purpose, an airstrip was built on the island at a length of 3,300 feet, which was long enough to accommodate Lerda's small fleet of aircraft. To protect Norman's Cay from law enforcement, attack dogs and armed guards patrolled the runway and various beaches, and radar was utilized as well. The island was a strategic rest stop for Colombian drug flights, a place where members of the cartel could refuel their planes and take a breather before continuing their trip to the US. It was also, apparently, a location known for having extravagant, lavish parties. A friend of Lerda, Carlos Toro, who worked as a Medellin cartel representative, remembered that when he landed on Norman's Cay, he would often be greeted by a car full of naked women who would welcome him to the island. He compared the island to Sodom and Gomorrah. It was full of sex, drugs, and, most importantly, no police. But the former inhabitants of Norman's Cay were fed up with the cartel's misuse of their precious island, so they made up their minds and planned to fight back against them. Unfortunately though, their efforts were futile, and it wasn't until 1982 that the Bahamian government started to crack down on the drug smuggling operations being carried out. Leder was eventually arrested in 1987, and afterward he was extradited to the US to finally stand trial. The former drug lord went on to serve 33 years in federal prison, but was released in 2020. Afterwards, he was deported overseas to Germany. 2. El Chapo. In late 2019, 6 houses that once belonged to drug kingpin Joaquin Guzman, who's much better known as El Chapo, were set to be auctioned off by law enforcement in Mexico. And if you didn't already know, El Chapo was once the leader of the infamous Sinaloa cartel. These houses used to serve as hideouts for the drug lord after his first escape from prison back in September 2001. But since his recapture in 2014, the Mexican government's taken control over these properties and eventually decided to put them up for auction. The homes are located in Culiacan, Sinaloa, and they have an estimated value of about 19.4 million Mexican pesos, which equates to roughly $1 million US. This is all listed according to the Administration of Property and Disposal Service, SAE, which is handling the prestigious sale. The most expensive of the properties is valued at 11.2 million Mexican pesos, or a little over $500,000 US. This particular house was initially purchased by El Chapo for the mother of one of his children, Griselda Lpez, who was a wanted criminal in the US up until she was arrested in 2021. The 3-story home featured an outdoor pool and multiple lavish bedrooms. When President Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador went into office in December 2018, he ordered the government to sell all the properties that had been seized from various tax cheats and drug dealers, 6 of which belonged to El Chapo. These days, the drug lord is serving out his life sentence in Colorado at a super maximum security prison, where he has little to no say about what happens to his once cherished estates. 1. Cartel Tigers. In Sinaloa, Mexico, a drug cartel deserted their kingpin's truck in the middle of the road back in April 2023, and inside the back of the vehicle, there was some surprising cargo. It wasn't drugs, guns, or ammunition. It was a vicious Bengal tiger chained up to a post in the truck bed. The car was abandoned after a ferocious shootout between members of a cartel and an anti-drug unit. During the gunfight, most of the gang members escaped the scene on foot, leaving behind many of their firearms, automobiles, and apparently even the tiger. The lonely beast was taken to the Culiacan Zoo afterward, but it was later transported to the Ostok Animal Shelter. The majestic tiger was young, only between 11 and 12 months, and was in good health according to staff from the Federal Attorney for Environmental Protection. The tiger's owner isn't known, but the animal wasn't aggressive and was obviously accustomed to interacting with humans on some level. Another Bengal tiger was discovered inside a trailer during January 2023. Albuquerque police found the animal inside the vehicle, which was suspected to be from another, or possibly the same, drug ring. This tiger was a juvenile, only a cub when it was found. But luckily, the tiger was given a new home at Colorado's Wild Animal Sanctuary, where the cub's rescuers lovingly gave him the name Duke. It seems that for some reason, drug cartels find owning exotic animals to be a good show of their power. Imagine a group of criminals with their own army of tigers. Now that would be terrifying. If you found an abandoned safe house stuffed full of cash and guns that was once used by a drug lord, would you turn over the discovery to the authorities, or would you take the cash for yourself and never say a word to anyone? Let us know what you would do in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!